Hello and welcome to Chapter 4 of the How to Gaia GPS video series, and today we're talking about saving offline maps. It's probably the most important feature of Gaia GPS, especially when you're adventuring off the grid. So let's head over to the Gaia GPS mobile app and get started. First, let's take a look at the more direct method of saving offline maps. We're going to use this area of Flathead National Forest in the state of Montana as an example. To get started, we're going to click the layers icon near the bottom left-hand corner. And from there, we're going to select Save Offline Maps. It doesn't matter what map layers you currently have visible because we're going to be able to choose that in a moment here. So you see a red rectangle in the center of the screen, and then each corner has a blue dot. You can drag those blue dots to change the shape of that rectangle. You can also fine-tune the area that you want that red rectangle to be right now by just selecting the red rectangle itself and then dragging it. So let's just drop it right there. And now we're going to hit Save at the top right-hand corner. From here, you'll see some options. The first one being if you want to include data to create and navigate routes offline. Unless that takes up a huge amount of space, I typically leave that on. I generally don't create routes when I'm already off-grid and out and about, but you never know, so I do leave that on. Next, you're going to be able to select between low, medium, and high resolution, and that really only relates to satellite imagery. And then below that, you have a big list of all the map layers you've recently used. You see that GAIA Overland is already selected. That is the only map layer I have visible currently, so that's automatically on, and I'm going to leave that on. I'm also going to pick cell coverage for Horizon. And let's do MVUM as well. I definitely want public land. And as you can see here, we have satellite image maps as well. Sometimes certain map layers are going to be grayed out. And they're grayed out and they won't let you save that data. And it has something to do with the total amount of map tiles within a file. I don't remember the limit, but just know that if a map layer is grayed out, you won't be able to save that offline data unless you choose a smaller map area. Since it's letting me do it, just for this example, let's pick satellite with labels. I personally don't save satellite imagery data for offline use. I just don't personally find it useful, but you may need it for what you're doing. And we are looking at a national forest, so I'm also going to pick USFS recreation sites. Okay, at the very bottom of the screen, you're going to find a list of all the layers you currently have selected, the total number of map tiles, and the total file size. Once you have all the layers you want selected, go ahead and click Next in the top right-hand corner. From there, we're going to be able to edit the title of this map. So let's call this Montana Map. And you see some pre-populated data for you, just a general location, which is in Flathead County, Montana, USA, and the date and time you are saving this map. We're going to ignore everything else below that because we'll cover that in a different video. For now, let's hit Save in the top right-hand corner. Once you do that, you're going to get a download status screen. On that screen, you'll see every map layer you're downloading and a progress bar and percentage for each map layer that you're downloading. It does take a little bit of time to download the data, even though it's not a huge file size. So I'm going to let this run, and we'll check in again as soon as everything's done downloading. Alright, we finally got everything downloaded. You'll see the word success next to each progress bar for each of the map layers we were downloading. As soon as all that's done, we'll click Done near the top left-hand corner. And now, let's verify that we have this data for offline use. And the way we're going to do that is I'm going to go into my phone settings and I'm going to turn on airplane mode so that Wi-Fi is off, cellular data is off, and we know we're offline. So everything looks the same as it did earlier. Now, if I shift the map over to an area that wasn't downloaded, let's say over by this little town called Browning here, you can see as I zoom in, nothing's going on. I don't see any streets. I don't see anything. I know I'm not getting any data downloaded right now, so we'll shift back to kind of where we were at Flathead National Forest there. When I zoom in, I start seeing some of the data I had earlier. Right now, I only have GAIA Overland selected, so let's turn on some of the other layers I had. And let's start with MVUM, and then public land, and satellite with labels. I also had USFS visitor, if I remember right. And there we go. I also had cell coverage Verizon, but I'll leave that one off for now. Now let's take a look at the map. Okay, now we have a bunch of the layers. Let me make sure I have everything kind of stacked the way I normally would want it to be stacked. And there we go. You see, if I zoom out, you see the satellite imagery in certain areas is very fuzzy. It's because we're offline and it's not downloading any additional data. But as soon as we get into the area that we did save, you can kind of see a pretty well-defined box there of the area that we saved. So that's how offline map data works. You could be off-grid and still have all the map layer data that you saved accessible whenever you want to use it. Before we jump to the other method of saving offline maps, let's talk about some limitations. We're going to start saving another offline map the generic way. You see some red boxes I already have there for areas that I've saved previously. I'm going to draw a box that saves the entire lower 48. So as you can see in the very top center, there's some red text indicating 123,000 tiles. So as I mentioned earlier, there is a limit to the total number of tiles, and that varies based on the map source. So it's too complicated to get into the specifics, but just know that as long as that text up there is red, you won't be able to save data for that large of an area. So you're just gonna have to shrink it. And obviously you can do multiple smaller size areas to get the greater area that you want. And when you're doing that, don't worry about overlapping your rectangles. The system's smart enough to know not to download the same tiles twice. So now let's take a look at the other method for saving offline map data, which is a map area that you've previously saved with whatever shape you want. For example, that blue shaded area you see on the screen right now is a rough outline of the state of Idaho and an area I created already. So I'm going to put my finger anywhere in that blue shaded area. And then near the bottom of the screen there, you see the previously saved area titled Idaho at 55.9 million acres. We're going to select that. And then we're going to click More. And then from there, we'll choose Download Maps for Area. And now you're going to see a very similar screen to what we had earlier. If you want to include data to create navigate roofs offline, I'm going to go ahead and click yes on that and then pick some layers. Now here you see some grayed out ones that I was talking about earlier. MVUM, NPS Visitor, and Nat Geo Trails Illustrator are all grayed out because there's just going to be too many tiles for this particular file, so I won't be able to do that. But I can do public land. I can't do any satellite images or USFS 2016 or USFS Classic or USFS Visitor at the bottom there. But for my personal use, I generally only save GAIA Overland feet, public land US, and cell coverage of Horizon, which I can do for the entire state of Idaho. And if I wanted to download this now, all I do is click next, and it's the same process as we had earlier. But for now, I'm going to cancel it because I don't want to save this yet. And I'm going to show you one more thing that you need to know, which is down in the bottom right hand corner in Settings. From the settings screen, we're going to pick Map Downloads, and you will see an auto resume selection. I have it off right now, but typically I leave that on, so I'm going to turn that back on now. And then below that, you see Last Integrity Check, which is at 4:27 p.m. today. Every now and then, you do want to go in there, especially the day before you're going to go on a big trip where you're going to be off the grid. You're just going to want to click on Last Integrity Check, and it's going to do another one for you and download any new data that you need. So that's it for saving offline maps. It's pretty easy and straightforward, but it's also probably the most important feature with GAIA GPS and the reason you want to use GAIA GPS for overlanding. So hopefully this video helped you guys out. Stay tuned for the next video where you're going to learn about organizing all of your saved data like waypoints, routes, tracks, offline maps, everything. Until then, thank you guys so much for watching. As always, remember, destinations don't matter, the journey matters. This is Roger, wishing you happy navigating.